welcome back to Cincinnati Zoo Tales. I'm Jenna.
And I'm Mark. Thanks to all you listeners for tuning in to another episode. We've got a really fun, a really interesting episode lined up today, and we're being joined by two returning guests. So thank you all both for coming back to join us. We're talking about our elephant trek, our elephants at the zoo, and some of the collaboration that our elephant team and our veterinary care team is doing, and some of the amazing work that they're doing over there. So we appreciate it. We're being joined by Christy Ison, who is the Zoological Manager for Elephants now. She's recently been promoted, so congrats on the promotion, Christy.
Very recently. Well deserved. Thank you.
And we're also being joined by Dr. Mike Wenninger, who is the Director of Animal Health here at the zoo. So we both know you're very busy people. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for being here. We have really exciting news about the elephants and vaccines that have been going on, and we want to get into that. But if you both just want to tell us a little bit about what your position is, how your day-to-day looks, and then Christy will have you tell us a little bit of an update about the elephants, too.
Yeah, so I'm very recently promoted to the Zoological Manager of Elephants, and so my day-to-day is a little odd right now and in a transitionary period. I'm still doing some keeper work, and I'm doing a lot more desk paperwork. So it's been an interesting transition for sure.
Yeah, we should mention you were on a previous episode. It's been maybe 2 years now since you were probably on the show.
Yeah.
But you were a keeper for years of elephants. So you were very involved in kind of the day-to-day husbandry, the care, and you've taken a more kind of oversight role now, right?
Right. Yeah. I just kind of lurk behind my team and just make sure we're all on the same page with our training methods and our foot care and things like that. So.
And up until now, which you'll still have like a role, but a different role in the training, you've been one of the lead trainers, and there's, like, I don't know how to start into this, but we were talking about EEHV. We're going to have Dr. Mike explain a little bit about that in just a second. But can you tell us some of the training things that are most important that you're leading or that your team has been working on that helps with these vaccines that have been administered and all the work that it took to get there?
Yeah, so our biggest behavior that we really focus on is blood collection. The boys, especially since they're in that kind of scary age for EEHV, we really focus in on making sure they'll continue to participate in voluntary blood collection. As we all know, getting poked with a needle is not fun, so it can be a challenging behavior to hold on to. So we save the highest value reinforcers we have at our disposal for any time they get poked with a needle. They know they're going to get that like piece of cake. Basically.
What are your reinforcers? Like, what's their favorites? Do they have
not
different
cake.
ones? Or it's not cake,
They might like that, though.
Is it different for each animal?
It is different.
Yeah.
So these boys, like any other little boys, tend to kind of change their taste frequently. So it's kind of a moving target. Sometimes melon is the end-all be-all. Sometimes really ripe pineapple is. And then suddenly the next week, how dare you give them pineapple? So it's
extra tricky.
Yeah, so I mean, as they get older, it changes. Like the older elephants will pretty much eat anything, but these young boys are pretty all over the place.
And will you just remind our listeners a little bit about kind of the group dynamics and how many elephants we have, what the kind of pairings look like, and male, female, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so we have 8 total elephants. The familiar faces are Jati, Mai Tai, Shotzi, and Sabu. They've been here for a very long time, and they've been joined by Shira, who is the mother of Anik and the mother of Kabir, and the grandmother of Sanjay. So Anik is Sanjay's mother as well, so it's a little bit convoluted, but the hope is that Sabu is going to breed with Shira and Anik, and maybe we'll have her own little baby like Columbus has. She's very cute if
So
you've not seen her.
Sabu is a dad now to a baby that lives like Columbus.
Yes, and the girls are cycling well. Sabu's also very hormonal and a must right now, so hopefully everything's lining up to work out. But it will be 2 years. So,
that 22-month gestation. Oh my gosh. It would be so exciting to find out that one of them was pregnant, and then you're just like, oh, it's going to be a long wait.
It's a long time.
I feel like we've gone through like a miniature version of that with giraffe. Like, you know, giraffe, it's 13 or 14 months, and we had to wait so long. It sounded like, and waiting another 9 or 10 months after that seems insane.
It takes a long time to cook a 300-pound baby.
You mentioned that the young boys are a little bit picky. Like, will you tell us their ages and why they were most important for this training? And
Yeah, so Sanjay, I believe, is 7 now. Kabir is 8. I say believe because I swear the minute I come into contact with an elephant, they stop aging.
They're just stuck
I
at that
can't
age.
remember our animals' ages either.
And it's very important that they remain participating in their blood behavior because they're in that risk age of EEHV. So it's somewhere from like, we believe 2 to 12-ish, but that number seems to always be moving. So until they age out of that, it'll continue to be a risk.
And you'll continue to collect blood how often on that?
We collect weekly.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a big change though now. We initially started at twice weekly, and then when they did have circulating virus, which we'll get to in a minute, we were collecting every single day, which they were great for. But there was, I don't remember how many hundreds of blood samples we've had to do with them.
Yeah.
And for anyone listening that maybe it's hard to imagine, like, if you have a cat or a dog, imagine taking them to the vet once a year for their annual physical, and, you know, sometimes it's a couple of people restraining your dog or your cat or all sorts of things. So an elephant that can be, 10,000 pounds, it has to be their choice to come over and participate on this. You can't hold them down. We don't share space with them. So it is a testament to your training and your team's training to be able to get blood every day. That's
insane.
Yeah, like
collectively, both teams, probably the vet and the elephant team, it was every day like holding your breath. Like, oh, is this the day they don't participate anymore? And
oh my gosh, I can't even imagine the stress,
Yeah.
stress of that and how much work that must have been, because, like you said, even their food choices are changing daily and just moods, and I'm sure it's tricky, but.
Yeah, props to your team for like somehow keeping up on that. Would you, like Jenna mentioned, this has to be such like a tricky undertaking. Would you describe what kind of like, what's that setup look like? Like how are you guys drawing blood? Like, where is it coming? What part of the elephant are you drawing it from? Like, what kind of like space has been constructed to allow you guys to do that?
yeah, so we draw blood from their ear. The ear is pretty thin skin, and you can visually see vessels, which on an elephant's a big deal because there's not very many places you can.
Mm-hmm.
So they're trained just to put their ear out and touch a target, and then somebody from the vet staff and somebody from my team approaches their ear, and we have 3 steps where you touch and palpate the vein, then you wipe with an alcohol gauze, and then we poke. And for every step, we announce what we're doing. So it's not a surprise if you say poke, the elephant knows, oh, here comes the needle. And then there's a person who's actively feeding the elephant through each step. So as you can imagine, for just touching, they might get some carrots, and then for the poke is when they get massively paid.
Awesome. So we did do an episode a couple of years ago, I guess. I swear time doesn't, I just don't understand time
yesterday.
or ages, or it was pretty much yesterday.
It was either yesterday or 2 years ago.
Yeah, somewhere in
range.
between. Where we really went into EEHV and what it is and how it works and all of that, but I don't even remember when the episode was, so I don't expect everyone to remember what it is. So Dr. Mike, can you tell us like a brief description and like explain what EEHV is, why it's such an issue right now?
Yeah, I'll try not to go into the 40 hours of lectures that we could talk about with EEHV. Like, there's actually whole like week-long symposiums to discuss advances in it. Things are rapidly evolving. But EEHV stands for Elephant Endotheliotropic Herpesvirus, and it's a virus that mostly it destroys the like blood vessel lining, and so leaking happens, and essentially animals that it results in a hemorrhagic disease where they just kind of bleed into all of their tissues. And mortality from EEHV hemorrhagic disease is very fast. So elephants can die within like less than a day up to 72 hours or so from being having hemorrhagic disease. And it's the leading cause of death in young Asian elephants. So currently, I think, like Christy said, the age group most at risk kind of bounces all around, but there's been elephants as young as 1 year old and up to about 15 years old that have died from EEHV hemorrhagic disease. So there was no preventative for it. We'll get more into that in a second. So essentially, you would and you know that all elephants are going to be exposed in their life. EEHV as a virus, there's different strains, and they're present in all elephant herds. So you know that they're all going to be exposed. And we knew that these two guys that were very, very high risk were going to be exposed, which is a little bit stressful. And so that's where the training for blood collection comes in, and the screening and monitoring and all the things. So it's just a long, long, scary undertaking.
And it's something that both wild and elephants in zoos can get and are getting and dying from, right?
Yeah, so elephants in nature and in human care die from it. It's thought that, trying not to get too much into the science aspect of things here, but it's thought that in nature, in large herds, they would be exposed to their to the virus while they still had protective antibodies from their moms, because it is in every elephant herd. So in human care, we don't have, vast thousands of acres of space that we can have giant herds of elephants. And so our herd size in human care tends to be a little bit smaller. And so there's a chance that some of these elephants do not get exposed while they still have maternal antibodies. And that puts them at high risk for hemorrhagic disease. The same thing happens in nature now with fragmented herds, that they may not be getting exposed. And so when they do get exposed, they'll end up not having protective antibodies from mom at that point, and they can end up with hemorrhagic disease. So not only does this disease present a huge risk in human care, it's also a huge risk in nature.
Which is so scary because it's both African and Asian elephants, and there are multiple strains for each species of elephant, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's just a lot of unknowns, and it's something that's very tricky. Like you said, there wasn't a preventative up until recently, but we've had some really exciting news, and will you guys tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, I can start, and Christy can jump in with all the other fun. So, as I said, we knew we were going to have these guys joining a herd where there was EEHV-1A, and EEHV-1A is the most lethal strain. That strain is responsible for the majority of Asian elephant deaths, not African elephant deaths. So there's research being performed at Baylor University or Baylor College of Medicine in Dr. Paul Ling's lab in conjunction with Houston Zoo. And a bunch of other zoos are kind of joining in, and we're one of them, to contribute to this research. There was a vaccine that was developed for EEHV-1A at the lab, and we were lucky enough to be chosen to administer it to our young guys. And we knew they would be exposed. They got the vaccine. We were monitoring their antibody levels. Luckily, it did cause high antibody levels. And then they were exposed, and they actually did develop viremia. So they had virus circulating in their blood. And that's when the scary part happened, and we started poking them every day and doing mean things. But the end result is that the vaccine appears to have prevented them from having hemorrhagic disease. Their values all stayed within normal the whole time for multiple months. They never had huge viral loads, and their antibodies continue to rise. So hopefully they'll have protection for lifelong protection because of this.
I have a lot of questions right now. I'm trying to decide where to start. How did we get chosen rather than Houston? Or is Houston also doing these vaccines?
Houston is as well.
Okay.
There's a couple other zoos that are. So like Rosamond Gifford, White Oak, us, Fort Worth, and Houston. And essentially we were chosen because we reached out with interest, and the elephant world is pretty small. So people know which animals are most sensitive, and our animals were right dead center in the super sensitive range, and so they were among the first to be vaccinated.
Was it also, so are we the first though that were able to get the data to know that it's working, or were there other zoos that had also seen this data?
So we were actually just at a EEHV symposium where some of the data was presented from multiple zoos. I think other zoos started vaccinating around the same time we did, so there was pretty good data in other young elephants that were getting some response. Our guys were the first ones to have data showing a good immune response, and then protection during a natural infection,
Okay.
and then what happens after that. So it's really exciting. They're the first two that show that this vaccine might actually prevent animals from dying from this virus.
Yeah, so you mentioned like you have like 12 to 72 hours if they contract the, sorry, tell me, I can't think of the scientific term for this. So you see certain levels, right, that would mean that they are hemorrhagic. I'm like I'm not explaining my own question well enough to ask the question. But you have very little time, like you're testing their blood weekly, then you see a sign of something, and you have like 12 to 72 hours, right, to potentially...
Kind of. So you can detect circulating virus in their blood up to 2 weeks before they get sick from it.
Okay.
So when you see circulating virus, you start monitoring every day. And there's thresholds that we have for when we start treatments. We also look at their white cell counts and their platelet levels and their cell differentials and all sorts of other things. But essentially, you're monitoring every day from that point for any sign that things might be going awry, and you start treatment. With treatment, at the first signs of an increasing viremia, so increasing viral loads, if you start treating then, the mortality rate drops some. So without treatment, it's very high, probably, I'm guessing here, probably 80-something%. With treatment, the mortality rate's still high. It's somewhere in the mid to upper 60s. And that really depends on how soon you catch it, how amenable the animals are for treatment. Like Christy was saying, and Jenna, like you said, you know, it makes a difference with the animals if these guys are trained to let us treat them, because if they're not, it requires daily sedation or multiple times a day sedation to administer treatments. And so prognosis is better with good training. So thank you for that, because I don't train the elephants. I poke them and know what to do when they're sick. That's about the extent of it. But I don't make the samples happen or make them stand for it, for sure. So the mortality rate is still in the 60s%, even with detection throughout the initial viremia and an increasing viral load. We ended up having that initial viremia, little blips of increasing load, but never to a threshold that we thought we needed to start treatment. And the white cell counts and the platelets and all of those things remained within their normal ranges. Which another kind of important thing to know is each individual elephant has their own normal range. So that's the other reason why we collect blood and run samples all the time.
So you were like basically monitoring them since they arrived, and you were able to train these behaviors weekly, getting blood. And then what date did you do the vaccine, or about what date, if you don't remember the exact one? And then like from there, when did you start to see the viral load kind of increasing? Like, what did that feel like for you, Christy, and your team? Like, did you guys freak out? Did you like
maybe a little? I think the one helpful thing was just knowing that it was probably when it was going to happen, not if.
Yeah, so you were prepared a little bit.
mean, like you mentioned, the elephant industry is pretty small. So when Sabu was coming home, we already knew that he had been actively shedding EEHV 1A through trunk mucus already. So we were kind of expecting it. I believe the vaccines were in October.
I think so. Oh, and one thing to add about the shedding is we also monitor the adults. So we know which adults are shedding. We check trunk wash samples and do PCR in our lab for that. And so we knew that he was shedding. We know when he was shedding. We know if the other elephants are shedding.
Yeah, it's literally collecting mucus.
I was just saying, can you explain what a trunk wash is to everyone?
So they're trained for us to put saline into their trunks. They trunk up, or put their trunks up, so that the saline kind of goes down into their trunk, and then they blow it all back out into a bag.
Which is also incredible training.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Here, let me put something, in my mind, up my nose, and then, like, and allow you to do it, and then I'll just blow it back out. I mean, I know that's how they
Get a giant
drink it,
snot
all
sample.
of that, but,
Yeah.
yeah. But train them for, a giant snot sample.
Yeah, so I think we all expected it to an extent. And so the day it actually happened with Kabir first, we obviously were very nervous. And then the daily monitoring just to see what those viral loads were doing. It was kind of everybody's on edge until we got the text around 4 o'clock saying, his viral load is this number, and it stayed that way for over a month. Right?
Yeah, I was going to ask how long, sorry to interrupt, but how long did it take for you to, because I know we have our amazing lab on site now, right? Like, how long, when you drew the blood, did it take before you got results back? It's not like you have to wait till the next day, the next week, like...
Luckily, it was same day.
Same day, okay,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep, so we did our own in-house testing, and then we also sent out to the national lab, just as like a double check, and that one was usually next day, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we were able to get in-house the same day, so it's really nice to have been able to do.
I would get a text message with the results from Joy, who's our EHV lab technician. I expected them every single day of the week around 2:45 p.m. and about maybe 2:35, 2:40, I started getting text messages from everyone from like CEO, COO to animal care to about, hey, where are we at with our numbers here? And I'm like, guys, give me 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then there a massive text thread would start. Just everybody was on edge, and everybody maintained calm, did what they were supposed to do, followed protocols, and the results were good.
And when was this again?
I think Sanjay was first, right?
I thought it was Kabir.
We might need to double check. They both happened.
It all runs together.
In February
Okay.
was the
Yeah.
first elephant, and then it was probably 6 weeks or so of viremia, and then maybe like a week of a lull where things were like, okay, cool, and then the next one.
Okay, so
okay.
you had a 6 weeks and then a little break, and then the next young
Yeah.
elephant.
I'm thinking a break like a week. Like
Yeah,
it didn't
not
even really
even a
give you a
break.
chance to like catch your breath kind
Yeah.
of thing. And then they both were positive again for a bit.
So Sabu came back to Cincinnati in September?
No, it had to have been before that, right?
He came back in summer sometime, I think.
Of
Didn't-
2024.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my memory is really
No,
terrible.
mine is too.
I
So
don't have
he
my
was
records in front of me.
meeting these elephants from Dublin for the first time in the summer sometime of 2024.
Yeah.
Well, actually, he was separated from them for a bit, right? Well, no, he came back. He came back here and was in the barn, but so he had air contact,
Okay.
but not direct.
Physical
Right.
contact,
Physical,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
And does it spread simply through air? Like, is it?
Yeah, like so they sneeze and pretty much contaminate the environment, just like a flu or something
Okay.
else.
Hmm.
And so then you made it through the winter, and then you were just doing weekly blood draws. So I'm trying to get it so I can wrap my brain around it. And listeners, weekly blood draws just to see what they didn't have a viral load. So what would be the word? What are you looking for then? They're just
You're making sure their viral load was negative.
Okay.
So you're looking at negative, and then also establishing their normal values for each individual.
oh yeah, and then you were
Okay.
able to establish
right.
the normal, and then sometime around February you saw a spike in one of them, and then
Yep.
and you gave the vaccines in.
The vaccines were given in it was October and November.
I think it was October.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it was 1 and then 3 weeks later they got a booster.
Okay.
So
Hmm.
we're probably both correct. October and November.
Yes. Wow. So yeah, it was like a long 6 months there of a lot of new things happening, a lot of blood collection, and so you were working with Baylor University and other zoos, and we were the first to see that this vaccine actually seems to be working. So that's really
Yes.
exciting, right? But tell us a little bit, like you mentioned though, that there are many strains. Are you still worried about these other strains now? Do we?
Yeah.
What are next
EEHV.
steps?
So 1A is the most lethal strain, but there's other strains we look at as well, and there's no vaccine for the other ones. So we're monitoring for those. We still monitor for EHV 1A, just mostly, and we also check their like antibody levels just to see and make sure they're staying protected, and that'll be ongoing for each of them for probably at least the next 7 or 8 years. So we're gonna have long fun relationships with them. I think they see us coming, just know what's going to happen, and just are like, fine, whatever, we don't really care that much anymore. So we'll keep monitoring for those. The risk of, like, the mortality risk is lower, but EEHV1B has also caused deaths in Asian elephants. And then it throws another huge curveball when you think about, like, African elephants, and they have completely different strains, and there's no vaccines for those guys, and they still die from them too.
It's such a tricky thing, and there's not a lot of, compared to human studies, right? There's not a lot of elephants that you can just do a vaccine trial with, right?
Nothing really even closely related that would, like, matter for them. So.
Yeah. So do you guys know what, like, are they working on the next vaccine? If a calf is born, like Sabu's daughter at Columbus, will she get the vaccine soon, or is it after she stops nursing? Or, like, do you know any of the next steps for further protection?
I'm not sure exactly what the calf for Columbus, when they'll get it. We are real close with the vets there, so we talk halfways regularly. And I know that they're going to be giving the vaccine. I think theoretically you would wait until the maternal antibodies start decreasing and then time that to be vaccinating so that you're building their own antibodies at that point. I assume that's what's going to happen, so my guess would be, she'd probably be getting vaccinated between a year and a half, but each institution decides when they want to do the things because there's just really not a lot known about it. So, and as far as vaccine development, in Dr. Ling's lab, they're working to make, we should get him on sometime to talk more about the specifics. They're working to make, like, different components of the vaccine to maybe make them even more robust. And then their hope is to also start developing vaccines for African elephants.
How do they even start? If, like, are they working with elephants and just trial and error, or, like, how do you start making a vaccine for elephants? Do you know? Maybe that's too big of a question. So I don't know. I don't
there's
understand.
A lot more science there's a lot more science than what I'm going to get into today, because that's another multiple weeks of lectures about this kind of fun things. But essentially, they look for neutralizing antibodies, like, these are the current vaccine's an mRNA vaccine. They're also developing other types of vaccinations, and then the thought is that there might actually be a combination of mRNA and other types of vaccines, just to, like, kind of cause a more robust immune response.
Are you guys sending blood work to them, or?
Yeah, they do all of our antibody testing, so we regularly send them samples, and we'll continue sending samples on the adult elephants every 6 months just to make sure that they're maintaining antibody levels, but also some of our adults do not have antibodies to 1B, and since herpes viruses last forever, like live forever in an animal or a person, so we know that they haven't ever had 1B. So if they show a positive for 1B, like some of our adults, that means somebody was shedding that virus, and we would probably also find it in a trunk wash sample. And then we would know we need to watch the boys really closely for 1B viremias. So we keep sending the adult samples at 6-month intervals, and we're sending the boys monthly, just to make sure that their levels are staying high.
So I know it's, like, mostly in younger elephants, but if they haven't been exposed to it, do you have to worry about the adults that have not been exposed to the 1B, or is it you just think they'll do okay?
They generally do okay.
What do you think? How is that? Because it's still, like a 15-year-old elephant, how is it that much different from a 25-year-old if they became exposed?
Yeah, it's probably because they have a lot of antibodies to other herpes viruses. They might develop some cross protection, not 100%, but in those older elephants, when they get a new strain, it's more likely if you're flu vaccinated, for example, and you get the flu, theoretically it should be less severe. Or if you were COVID vaccinated and you got COVID, theoretically it should be less severe. So if they have antibodies to all of the other strains and they get a new strain like 1B, even though they're distinct enough to be different strains, but there's probably some crossover.
Okay.
That's crazy. It's insane work. I'm curious to hear from like each one of your team's perspective, because obviously there's just so much work that's gone into this, the training side, the sample collection and testing and everything. What's been like, and just the psychological aspect of it all, what's been like the biggest challenge for each of your teams going through all of this?
For my team, I think the biggest challenge was that we have several of my teammates that have come from facilities that have lost calves, and they've been a part of losing those calves to this disease. So looking at it happening again was pretty, I don't know if traumatic's the right word, but it was impactful.
Absolutely.
And just the idea that it all hinged on how well you're training that animal.
No pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure at all.
But we might be staring at you waiting to poke
Yeah. So I think for several months there, our barn was a little bit of a pressure cooker of just applying different stresses and seeing how we came through it.
Understandably so. And you probably felt like you're like a little bit under a microscope as well. Like there's so much of this research, so much of it is hinging on your daily training. Like
Right, yeah, because like the vets couldn't do their job until we could do our job, and it was a lot for a while.
Yeah. And you're down to, how often are you getting blood now on the boys?
Once a week.
Once a week, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely, I would say the hardest part for us, besides just the making sure that we're educated in all of the potential outcomes, potential treatments, and just knowing what to do. We had drills, we have protocols, we're very, very well prepared. I know my previous institution we lost an elephant to EEHV as well as an African elephant there. So I know what it's like, and I never want to see that again. It was horrible. But also aside from just making sure that we know everything that we need to know, there are a lot of resources. Like, elephant community is small. We all help each other out. The other zoo vets that have been through this before as well, everybody's willing to just answer a call if you call. So there's people who've been through it like multiple times and are happy to give advice or help or whatever. It's a pretty small, friendly, close-knit kind of community. But so that's all great. I think part of the bigger challenge maybe we had between our teams was that, from the vet staff, we needed to get these samples. The elephant team knows that they need to train the animals that the animals can let us get those samples. So we can't get the samples if the elephants don't do what they need to do. But they're also not miracle workers and can't force them to do what they need to do. So there was always like this, well, we can't get the samples, and it was like we all have really great working relationships together, but it does strain it sometimes when you're kind of like, we can't do our job if we can't get the samples, and then when they finally do stand still, if we miss a vein because they're a little fidgety or something, which happens because we're not perfect either, then the keepers are like, well, you had a perfectly still animal, like, why didn't you get the sample? And then so we're both like,
and it's for such like a scary and important reason. It's not just like an annual where you just want the blood.
I to be transparent. I specifically remember one attempt where both us keepers and the vet staff were standing in the hallway staring at each other because it was like, well, I need blood, and I was like, get him over here. I know.
Good luck. Like, I tried. They're coming.
Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. You're like, but the cool thing is, we were able to get the vast majority of samples. Like, there might have been a day here or there where we didn't get it in the morning, but the keepers worked with them throughout the day, and in the afternoon we were able to get a sample. Yeah. So our teams really, I think, if anything, ended up through a pretty good bonding experience. Like bonding through stress.
Yeah, trauma bonding.
Yeah.
And I mean, do you guys feel a little bit of relief? And like, I mean, now that you know the vaccines can work, like, does that take a little bit of pressure off, or at least for the future?
Every 6 months when we get that email back about their antibodies level, I read it every time, and I'm like, look at that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
There will be lots of publications coming out about this stuff through Baylor, through Dr. Lang, and with Houston Zoo, and our guys will be in a publication, and we're all working together to get the information out to the scientific community so that it can be spread, like maybe not just in the U.S., but maybe we can eventually help other animals as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. If you can help wild populations too, and just
Yeah, that's
all
incredible.
of the elephants in zoos.
All the other facilities that test ran the vaccine with us, they all had just as much success with us as we did, I assume.
Well, so there were no like big complications from the vaccine, and the animals developed antibodies, but they haven't had like a challenge study yet, where their animals actually got sick and then see what the outcome is.
It's like nobody's giving elephants EEHV on purpose
Yeah.
to test the vaccine.
That's what I'm like, how do you even do all of this study, like, to make it, and then I
And
can't
also,
imagine.
like vaccine studies and efficacy studies in other species, like there's hundreds or thousands of animals in there, and do you know how many elephants there are, even in Asian elephants are even in the United States?
It's not many. I can't give you a number.
Like a
but,
couple
like,
hundred
I
maybe.
was gonna say it's under 200.
Yeah.
I think.
And half of them are adults, and
I was like, so
already,
many of
you
them
know,
are like post-reproductive, like your
Yeah.
Mai Tais and your Shotsies, and
yeah, that just
Yeah.
not a
But-
lot to work with.
Yeah, the whole population for Asian elephants is a little bit scary because there's a lot of old elephants that aren't reproducing and very few younger elephants that are, and not a lot of calves that are reaching, there's at least half as many reaching breeding age as what there could be without this stupid virus.
Yeah, so not only is it a 22-month gestation that, makes it difficult to, you can't just pop out elephant babies all the time, but then you're having this virus that's killing them. So I think it's amazing that you guys have gotten to be a part of this and found out all of this information, and all of Dr. Ling's work is amazing and
yeah, absolutely.
life-saving.
For sure, I know. Hopefully it just continues to help the elephant population, and like you said, Dr. Mike, not only here in North America, but hopefully across the world one day, and maybe even wild elephants one day. That'd be really cool if this research could help translate to that as well.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you guys want to mention about the elephants or this training or the...
Everybody cross your fingers as hard as you can that
Yeah.
we can copy Columbus.
Get a baby over here.
Yeah, that'd be exciting. I know.
Oh my gosh, yes.
We could probably do a podcast like this once a week and have something new to talk about with EEHV. It's just things are being learned and happening so fast.
Really? Have you noticed, is it more common now than it used to be for some reason, or we just know more about it now?
I think we just know more about it.
Okay. So I don't remember hearing about it, 10 years ago.
That's because there were only, here at least, there were elephants that were beyond the age for concern. But it was something that people knew about for a long time as a cause of death in them. It was just hard to isolate and figure out. And there's just, I think, some of the earlier studies were in the early, 2010s.
Okay.
There were cases before that, but research finally started taking off a lot over the last, maybe 15 years, something like that.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for being here. I just have one final question. What can I do? How can I help?
Well, there's two things that are probably good options. One, you can come visit Christy's team and do behind the scenes with elephants, because all of those programs have a portion of proceeds that go directly to vaccine research. And the other option is you could visit eehvinfo.org. You can learn a whole lot from that website, and there's also places to donate with all of the funds going directly towards research for EEHV.
Great.
Yeah, it'd be a great way to help contribute. And Dr. Mike and Christy were explaining to us a little bit before we started recording, but part of the reason, I guess, and please correct me if I've got this wrong, but part of the reason that this research is so expensive and so time-consuming is because it needs to be independently developed for every single strain for each species of elephant. So it's quite an undertaking to develop something like
There's
this.
what, seven main strains?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
7 different strains that need researched.
And a vaccine developed.
And
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
I think the
it's-
next most important thing would probably be getting some vaccines out there for African elephants. And I heard some whisperings that to get an African elephant vaccine out would cost upwards of $300,000 for the lab.
Wow.
So it's a lot of money to
Yeah.
get there. And I think, I don't remember the exact numbers, but there was over $10 million in research and just expenses that have gone into like through the lab and developing these things.
Yeah, well, hopefully with the first one now under our belt, fingers crossed, it'll be easier the second time around at least.
Maybe a little bit.
Should be a little
Tiny
cheaper.
bit, tiny bit.
Yeah.
A little cheaper, a little easier, maybe a little faster, hopefully.
Yes. Fingers crossed for the elephants and Dr. Ling and everyone working on this. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much. I know we
Yeah.
really appreciate you both stopping in, teaching us, talking to us about the elephants today. We know you're really busy people, so I know we appreciate your time for sure.
Yeah, I was happy to be here.
And
Yeah.
great work. Congratulations.
Yeah, congrats. Seriously.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Seriously, to all you listeners out there, thank you for tuning into another episode. Hopefully you learned just as much as I did today. And until next time, take care.
Have a good one.